Hey, what's up everybody? So we're gonna do a series on remote work, just all about the state of the industry, how companies are doing when it comes to remote work, and just give an overview. So if you're interested in becoming a remote worker, or you just want to learn how to do it better, we're gonna be creating several new videos throughout the coming weeks all about that kind of good stuff. So today we're actually gonna do an overview on the state of the industry when it comes to remote work. Just to give you a really good overview, what it is, how different companies do it, and yeah, like what are the benefits of remote work, as well as some of the trade-offs and challenges. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Alright, so the first point about the state of remote work is that it's not just a trend, and it's not just the sign of the times. No matter what year it is, remote work is here to stay. So actually 98% of employees who have worked remotely basically said, yeah, I would love to continue working remotely and do so at various times throughout my career in the future. In addition, 95% of people would recommend remote working to others, to their friends, to their coworkers, etc. So really, remote work is here to stay. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of different benefits, but there are also a lot of different challenges. So when it comes to remote working, the companies who are able to embrace remote work as a new kind of work and really take the steps needed to make remote work an integral part of their organization are the ones who are going to attract the top talent and really be the leaders of the future going forward. Alright, so when it comes to remote work, what are some of the benefits? Well, there's actually many benefits to remote work. The benefit that most people have said is just flexibility. So being able to set your own schedule, whether that's being able to work out when you would like, or get out of the house to grab a coffee with a friend, really anything. So when it comes to remote working, you basically communicating with your team through a remote working tool, such as Slack, and there's a lot of different options out there. There's Tandem as well. But in the meantime, you definitely have much more flexibility to build your schedule the way you'd like it. And it's not just schedule. One of the biggest benefits of working remotely is that you can actually choose where you would like to work from. And so many companies are open to, you just can travel wherever you like and basically work from different places all over the world. So while it's still most common that most remote workers do work from the home, around 80%, yeah, a lot of remote workers really just use that as an opportunity to have more freedom about where they are working from. Another benefit of working remotely is basically having no commute. So many of us who work in the city or who have to commute very far to work understand that commuting can be stressful and it can just take a lot of time out of your day. So just not having to commute is actually a huge deal, and one of the biggest reasons why many people love working remotely. And the final reason that people love for working remotely is just being able to spend time with family. So especially for people who have younger or older family members that are in the house or that they would like to spend more time with, really just anybody who likes spending more time with family, that's just another big reason why people love working remotely. So remote work is actually a great option that's great for employees and just gives them a lot more flexibility and a lot of other perks. Especially for employees who are in their 20s and 30s, that demographic, we really appreciate having it all and having a work-life balance. So just having more flexibility, whether that's to get exercise and go to the gym, or to have more life experiences, just enjoying and appreciating experiences more than having things. So that's one of the biggest reasons for that demographic. Remote work is also great for companies as well, because when companies are able to embrace remote work and do it the right way, there's just been an overwhelming increase and improvement in those who choose to use remote work, basically having a better work-life balance and being more productive throughout the entire working year. So now that we've heard about many of the benefits of remote work, let's discuss some of the challenges and trade-offs that are present with this different kind of work. So one of the biggest challenges with remote work in general for teams is actually collaboration and communication. So Affects especially companies who do have one part of the team that is working remotely and another part of the team that's actually working from the office. So in that kind of situation, it's just very difficult, especially when different team members might be using different communication platforms. Having that real-time chat seems very convenient for those employees who are in the office to stay in sync and be really within each other's circles. But at the end of the day, it's easy for things to get lost in a real-time chat. So those who are working from a different time zone or basically are remote may lose out on some important information. Other challenges with working from home include just unplugging at the end of the day. So many remote workers have said this is a challenge for them. And at the end of the day, as a remote worker, it is up to you to just basically set your own schedule and really set boundaries around your work and around your own personal time. And doing so is just one of the things that you can learn to do as a skill in order to get the most out of working remotely. So there are some other challenges that people experience when working from home, including loneliness. You know, it's just not in the office, you're not communicating with your coworkers face to face, and so that obviously is going to reduce the amount of time you spend with people. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to creating a lifestyle that works for you and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So just having like more time with friends or with family, grabbing a coffee, or even going and just working from a co-working location or a coffee shop. Those are all great ways to combat loneliness. And yeah, just to make sure that you're integrating remote work into a holistic lifestyle. So the final challenge for remote work is just time zones. Time zones can be very difficult, and it kind of goes back to the communication and collaboration. But at the end of the day, teams that embrace remote work are finding that with all of the incredible tools out there for working remotely, just setting up the right environment and being very thoughtful is working really well for companies to have a lot of success managing work across any time zones or even just fully globally. All right, so to wrap up this overview of the state of remote work, we're going to talk about different companies and how they do remote work, as well as talking about vacation policies of companies and how that tends to dovetail with remote working as well. All right, so as far as companies, they have very different policies when it comes to remote work. So as an employee, it can be very helpful to just do some research and understand the different kinds of structures. So especially if you're looking for a new job or you're trying to assess your current role and just see where it stands in terms of the industry, it can be good to understand the different structures that are out there. So most companies offer some kind of remote work. Most companies who support remote work of any kind tend to have a mix. So around 40% basically have a mix of remote and on-site workers. So this actually tends to be the most challenging. So for remote workers, it can just be challenging for many of the reasons we mentioned before around collaboration and around passing the work off among different time zones. So for these kinds of companies, the most important aspect of success is really having that mentality and that culture in the company that, okay, we understand that there is a remote piece in the company. So really putting in all that extra effort that is needed to make sure that the company succeeds at remote work and does that very well, to basically establish that foundation for all employees to succeed and collaborate together. And so a lot of that comes around to the tooling and the processes that are used and making sure that those are proven. And there's a lot of options out there today, and we will go into that in a later video. But basically, understanding that you're setting the foundation in terms of the type of work. Now actually 30% of companies that support remote work are fully remote companies. And so what this means is they don't usually have a physical office, or they might have some offices around, but they aren't really used all that much. And most employees are expected to be working from home most of the time, or even 100% of the time. And so these companies are actually correlated with having the best success with the employees, with the work-life balance, in terms of happiness, as well as in terms of productivity at the individual and the team level. So I guess that's not too surprising based on what we just discussed. They have basically embraced the fully remote company model, and in doing so, I'm sure they've invested much more, just on average among all these different companies, to the process and to setting up their employees and teams for success working remotely. So we can learn a lot from them. So of the remaining companies, you know, a lot of companies just have a policy where you can work from home as needed, which makes sense for employees that can do work from home and you know, might just be sick or, you know, need to do a little bit of work or whatever the reason might be. And then the final piece is that some companies have a policy around you can have a certain number of days that you can use to work flexibly. So that's an interesting model, and it's basically by companies that they want to try this out and just see how it goes, and they're experimenting a bit. So as an employee, what I would recommend is just research the different companies out there and the models they have. I would recommend looking into remote first companies as a great option because they just have the most experience with setting up employees for success. But there are also many companies out there that, even though they have a hybrid model, are setting up their employees for success. So that's definitely something you should look into before accepting any offer for that kind of company. Alright, so the last piece I wanted to touch on is actually around vacation policies and how that relates to remote work. So studies found that basically many companies, around 32 to 35%, who offer this remote work basically also offer an unlimited vacation policy. However, workers only generally took around 2 to 3 weeks of vacation per year. So in terms of the range, companies vary a ton when it comes to vacation policies or when it comes to remote working policies. But the overall finding is that remote workers who have a bit more flexibility and who are even able to travel a bit and work at the same time while still keeping their productivity are actually able to find a better work-life balance where they don't really take as many days off in terms of vacation. So that's kind of an interesting finding that I wanted to highlight as part of the larger picture. Alright, so that basically wraps up our overview of kind of remote working, the different models that companies have, as well as the experiences from remote workers, the things they like about it and the things they don't. So at the end of the day, if you're looking at, you know, making remote work an intentional part of your career and basically becoming, you know, a remote worker, there are a lot of great options out there for doing so. And when it comes right down to it, as long as you put an intention into really succeeding as a remote worker and addressing the challenges mentioned before, you'll find all the benefits to just totally outweigh the challenges, and you'll find that your work-life balance can greatly improve from remote work. And you can always try it for a while and then, you know, just eventually go back to your regular old working from the office, and many people have done that as well. All right, well, thanks for watching. We're coming out with a lot of new videos on remote work basically over the next couple of weeks to go and deep dive into how to succeed as a remote worker, as well as like the tools that you can use and the platforms that are out there to help you find jobs, to help you learn tips and tricks, as well as if you are managing remote teams, how to do so successfully and how to really take advantage of this remote work phenomenon and make that an integral part of your company to attract top talent and be one of the most successful role models for other companies. All right, thanks for watching. If you like what we produce, go ahead and like this video. If you want to hear more about what we're putting out, subscribe, and that way you'll get alerts whenever we post a new video. And yeah, thanks for watching.